Welcome into Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery here on Locked On Sports Atlanta. Today on the show, it's the price of success. Murray is your MVP and a lesson that the Atlanta Falcons can learn. It's all next. Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery, Locked On Sports Atlanta.
This is Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
Hittin Hard is brought to you by our newest sponsor, FanDuel.com. Make every moment more. Place your first $5 bet to get $150 in free bets, win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/locked on today to get started. Well, listen, we're hearing a lot of rumor and innuendo that one of the hottest names on the NFL coordinator market is Todd Monken, offensive coordinator for the University of Georgia. Now, look, Monken has some ties to the NFL and things like that. And Todd Monken has also expressed interest in being a head coach again. Remember, his brother is the head coach of Army, Jeff Monken, and he's been a really good coach at Army. But Todd is a guy who has aspirations of potentially being a head coach. Nothing wrong with all of that kind of stuff. But Todd Monken has been linked to a whole lot of jobs in the NFL, whether it's the Buccaneers offensive coordinator position, but several NFL teams. And obviously, we're kind of at the end of the cycle of college head coaches. Of course, anything can happen and, something always does. But, you wouldn't think that Todd Monken is in line for really any kind of job right now, just because I don't even know how many jobs are open in the world of, head coaching for college football right now. But this is the price of success, right? Like when you're the University of Georgia, and it's happened at Alabama, Clemson, right? For so long, Clemson had Brett Venables, Chad Morris, guys like that, and they've all moved on to head coaching gigs. Brent Venables just finally left after a long stint. Obviously, Kirby Smart was a decade with Alabama as a defensive coordinator, and then obviously came over to Georgia. This is the price of success, and it's not really any big deal. And I say that just from the standpoint of, yes, Todd Monken is one of the elite play callers in all of college football. Okay, don't get it twisted. He's an excellent play caller. He has shown you for the last 2 years his ability when he gets into these big games and big moments that he's an excellent player. And look, he's elevated Stetson Bennett's play and things like that. So I'm not saying that Todd Monken wouldn't be a big loss to the University of Georgia. And we've seen, look, Dan Lanning took the Oregon coaching job. He moved on as a defense coordinator. But here's the thing about all of this, okay? When you're the University of Georgia and at the level that they're at right now, you don't have to go looking for offensive coordinators, coaches, things like that. They'll come looking for you. When you're at the top of the mountain, everybody wants to coach for you. And I say this all the time about the elite level programs, that when you're Ohio State, when you're Southern Cal, Alabama, Georgia, things like that, if you ever need a head coach, you go steal somebody's head coach. Look at most recently, Jim Knowles, who was, I think he was the Broyles Award winner the previous season, defense coordinator for Oklahoma State. What did Ohio State do? They needed a defensive coordinator. They weren't happy with the results that they were getting. And they just went and got, the premier defense coordinator at that time in college football, or the hottest name, and just took him, right? That's what happens when you're the University of Georgia. Coaches will come looking for you. So you don't have to scramble. You don't have to, go out there and put your fishing lure out in the water to go find offensive coordinators. They'll come to you. And that's the benefit of being in the position that Georgia is in. That whether it's head coaches, offense coordinator, defense, whatever it is. Listen, Will Muschamp is a guy. He obviously has a great relationship with Kirby Smart. I believe that they were teammates at one point. Will Muschamp was a natural fit to just kind of come in with Kirby and run their defense. And they didn't miss a beat, right? 5 first-round picks and all this kind of stuff. Oh, the defense is going to be as good. They were literally less than 3 points different from where they were the previous season until this season. And they're going to put a whole bunch of guys in the NFL, right? I mean, they just had the number 1 pick in the draft. They may end up with the second number 1 overall pick in the draft. So you didn't miss a beat defensively. Literally, you didn't take any kind of real step back. I thought that they would maybe take a little bit of a step back, but they literally just didn't even take any kind of real steps back. They were outstanding. They got all the greatest personnel and everything like that. So when you're at the position that Georgia is in, you don't have to go find coordinators and coaches to come into your program. They'll come knocking on your door. You want to get to the NFL? You want to be at the top of the mountain? You want to be one of the highest paid guys in all of college football? You come to the University of Georgia. And that's been true for Alabama. That's been true for Clemson. That's been true for Ohio State. When you get to that level of your program and the success that your program has, everybody wants to come coach for you. And that's a great position to be in. You don't have to go search out a guy. Listen, and I'm not knocking Georgia Tech and things like that, but when you're Georgia Tech, you have to settle for some of the things that you get, right? You have to settle from there's a limitation on how much money you can spend or, how attractive your program is and things like that, right? We just saw it last year with their offense coordinator, before, everybody got fired. We saw this last year. But when you're the University of Georgia, you can pay guys at a premium level. You don't have to go out and try to figure out, oh my gosh, who are we going to scramble and go get? No, you take somebody's coach. You go to a really good program and you say, come to Georgia. You want to get to the NFL? You want to be one of the highest paid guys? We can pay you the money. We can put this, build the stepping stone for where you want to be, and we can get you, to the top of the mountain. And by the way, if you have success here, everybody's going to come calling for you. NFL, premium, a possible premium head coaching job. Look at Dan Lanning. He turned it into the Oregon job, which is a high-level job. That's not some Michigas kind of job that's out there. In the world of college football, that's a high-level job to get for a guy with not a lot of head coaching experience or anything like that. So this is not a negative, or it's not, woe is me or anything like that for the University of Georgia. There are going to be coordinators that come and go. There are going to be coaches that come and go. Not necessarily the head coach, but there are going to be all kinds of other positional coaches that will come, or coordinators that will come and go. But the great thing about the University of Georgia is when you're at the top of the mountain, guys are coming looking for you. Guys are going to line up and hand you their resumes as to why they should be there. You don't have to go find them. They'll come knocking on your door and find you. All right, I want to talk about our friends and our newest sponsor over at FanDuel.com. Listen, the NFL playoffs are here, right? And we're excited for our new sports betting partner for Locked On, because they're the number one sports book in all of America. It's FanDuel, FanDuel.com. And if you're new to FanDuel, it's even better because we've got so many great features that make sports betting fun, easy. So here's what we've got going on, okay? New customers, when you sign up today, you will get $150 in free bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. So you bet 5 and you get $150 in free bets guaranteed. Just sign up at fanduel.com/locked on, LOCKEDON, fanduel.com/locked on. FanDuel's got all of your favorite bets from money lines to point spreads to player props. Plus, excuse me, you can even combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout and the same game parlay. So listen, it's an app that you get on. It's safe. It's secure. It's super easy to use. Everybody's heard of FanDuel, right? Everybody knows how great that they are. Football fans, don't miss out. Place your first $5 bet today to get $150 in free bets, win or lose. Hopefully you win, but $150 on your first $5 bet, win or lose, at fanduel.com/locked on. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So, I was thinking about this the other night on Friday night, and, the Hawks had, had beat the New York Knicks to extend their winning streak to 5 games, then turned around on Saturday and stunk up the joint, but we'll forget all of that kind of stuff. But the Hawks had their 5-game winning streak on Friday night, extended it, and then, they've still won 5 of their last 6. But I was thinking about this on Friday, that it's not even, I don't really even think that it's a close discussion. Dejounte Murray is the MVP of this team. And I was starting to kind of very fast Rolodex my way through. There are probably 6 or 7 games that Dejounte Murray has won that if he was not on their squad, they would have lost them last year. You could even start with opening night with the Houston Rockets. Literally go back to night 1, opening of the season, and you look at the offensive and defensive contributions that Dejounte Murray made. Start with that game. That's the kind of game that the Atlanta Hawks would have lost last year. And listen, while the Hawks, and they've not been very good in back-to-backs. I mean, it's surprising that they lost to the Hornets, but when you look at the fact of in back-to-backs, they're one of the worst back-to-back teams in all of the NBA. But at least for the good of where the Hawks are right now, and, certainly sitting, I think, in the 8th seed, they're only a game above 500. But you think about how much worse it could have been, because Dejounte Murray has been the MVP of this team, both from a defensive side. Certainly he is their best defensive player. I mean, you see how handsy he is around the ball. You see how active he is on defense and creating steals, creating turnovers, just all these little things. But then offensively too, watching him against the Knicks, he could not be stopped in the middle of the lane and, from about 14 to 17 feet in that range around the free throw line. He was just hitting everything. Little floaters, little runners, a set, whatever it was. And again, Murray, on Saturday night had 26 points to lead the way. Now, listen, maybe Dejounte Murray isn't the best player. Certainly that's Trae Young and all of the things that he does and all that good kind of stuff. But Dejounte Murray is the MVP of this team. And I don't think it's even close. I love Trae Young and I love all the things that he does. But this team wouldn't even be a game above 500 if not for Dejounte Murray. And you think about the fact that, he's obviously had some injuries, but certainly they've navigated their way through all of these different injuries, where it was 2 players out, 3 starters out, 4 starters out at times. They've had to navigate their way through all of these injuries. And I'm not going to say that, it's an accomplishment that the Hawks are a game above 500, because they certainly should be better, and they haven't taken advantage of some of their scheduling. But Murray is the glue that holds this team together. And what's going to be fascinating is he's got next year on his contract, and I don't even know what the number is, but I think it's about 14 or 17 million dollars. But he's going to be a max guy. He's that good of a player. He's that good of a two-way player. He's one of the better two-way players in the NBA. And I said it on night one, and I still believe every bit of this. When you look at Dejounte Murray, it's obvious that he was a San Antonio Spur. He played for Greg Popovich. He's a defensive-minded guy who's still a very good offensive player. He does so many things on the court to help you win games. And that's the big thing. And I know I'm going to criticize Trae Young here when I say this, but there are moments in times when Trae Young takes errant shots, has turnovers that don't that make it harder for you to try to win games. Now, obviously, Trae Young has had the burden of the franchise on his shoulders, but Dejounte Murray makes so many winning plays. A steal here, a turnover here, a rebound here, a floater in the lane. When the New York Knicks were scoring, 71 points in the first half of that game on Friday, and they were shooting, at one point they were 24 for 30. They were 80% from the field, and I think they finished at 71% in the first half from the field. Murray was keeping you in that game. Murray was creating winning basketball, and then he turned it on in the fourth quarter. And remember the game last Wednesday, Luka Doncic, against the Mavericks and Luka Doncic. Murray had to kind of take over for DeAndre Hunter on Luka, and Luka went, I think it was 1 for 9 in the last 9 minutes of that game. There are so many winning plays that if you think about where this team would be right now without Dejounte Murray, they'd not even be in the playoff picture. As it is, they're still 8th, and that was a frustrating loss, and they get a chance, tonight to take on the Chicago Bulls. But there is no doubt, and like I said, I don't even think that is close right now, that Dejounte Murray is the MVP of this club. And, for all of the things that, we've had injuries, and Trae's not had his best season, and John Collins does not shoot the three well, and everything else, everything else has been, along with all of that. It's certainly been, a very challenging season. The drama with Nate and Trae Young and the behind the scenes stuff and all of the different things going on. Dejounte Murray has gone out and just played winning basketball night in, night out. So if you're thinking about an MVP for this team, it's certainly Dejounte Murray. And I don't think that it's even close for, this team, how good he's been. And he's been the glue that has held this team together. All right, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. And besides making Hittin' Hard with Jon Chuckery your first listen every day, make Locked On Sports today your second listen. The biggest stories of the day, instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. It's available on Odyssey, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts from. So there's a lesson to be learned for the Atlanta Falcons. So we saw yesterday that the San Francisco 49ers advanced to the NFC Championship game, and they beat the Dallas Cowboys in a real defensive Donnybrook. I mean, for lack of a better term, that was a really good defensive game played by both teams, actually. So here's the lesson, though, that the Atlanta Falcons can learn. In the last 11 seasons, the San Francisco 49ers have been to 5 conference championship games in the last 11 seasons, okay? And they've done it with 3 different quarterbacks: Colin Kaepernick, Jimmy Garoppolo, and now Brock Purdy. So they've been to 5 conference championship games in the last 11 with 3 different quarterbacks. Now you say, we talk about being a franchise quarterback and you've got to have that guy under center, and all of that is true. But what's the one thing that if you and look, the 49ers have had good quarterback play. It's not like that they've had, bums of the month or anything like that. They've had good quarterback play, but they haven't had elite level quarterback play. But what is the one thing that has been constant, whether it's the Jim Harbaugh regime, now Kyle Shanahan? What's the one thing that has been constant about the 49ers and allowed them to win? It's line of scrimmage play. They are, without question, the best line of scrimmage team in the NFL, both offensive and defensive. They have an outstanding offensive line. They have the best left tackle in all of the NFL. And they have a dominant defensive line of scrimmage with Bosa and Eric Armstead and guys like that. It's the one constant that through these last 11 seasons, that no matter who the quarterback has been, it's been Jimmy Garoppolo that you traded for. It's been Colin Kaepernick, who ran kind of a gimmicky offense at Nevada. Or it's been Mr. Irrelevant Brock Purdy. The one thing that is constant about the 49ers is they are the most dominant line of scrimmage team in the entirety of the NFL. And it's been that way. And so when we talk about the Atlanta Falcons, and I talked about this last week, staying the course, you don't go off and get these harebrained ideas about giving up. Again, I'm not in the camp of Lamar Jackson, giving up all the capital and spending all your money and things like that. Where the 49ers have always won in this realm, not the Joe Montana years and Steve Young and all that kind of stuff. These last 5 appearances in the last 11 seasons in the conference championship game, they are the best line of scrimmage team in the entirety of the NFL. And they've always been able to sack the quarterback. They've always been a really good run offense. They've dominated up front. Again, Trent Williams is maybe not only maybe the best left tackle in the NFL, he might be the best offensive lineman in the NFL. And they've always had those dominant pass rushers, right? The Aldon Smiths, the now Bosa, right? Eric Armstead's a double-digit sack guy in the middle of the interior of their defensive line of scrimmage. It's always been that way. And it's the lesson that the Falcons have to learn, that you can get away with not having Lamar Jackson and all the capital that it's going to cost you and all of the money that it's going to cost you and things like that. I've said that you can have a pathway to win with Desmond Ridder, but you have to be great at your lines of scrimmage. And certainly the Falcons offensive line made a huge step forward. They were a top 5 rushing offensive line this year. McGarry played really well. Lindstrom's moved into that elite status. By the way, he was stiffed on making second team All NFL. He should have been first team All NFL, but that's another story for another day. But they've made great strides. Now, they're still not a great pass blocking offense, but their defensive line of scrimmage, while it's a little bit better, yes, Ebiketie, Maybe he'll make that jump. Grady had a really good year. Taquan Graham was having a good year until he went down. You got some contributions from, Lorenzo Carter and stuff like that. But if you want to be great in the NFL without having to be great at quarterback, you be the best line of scrimmage team in the NFL. And that's the hallmark of the 49ers, both on the offensive side and on the defensive side. And look, I'm not going to say that we got a long way to go to be the 49ers defensive line of scrimmage, but we got a long way to go to be the 49ers defensive line of scrimmage. And I think that there has been great improvement on the offensive side of the football. We certainly had some really good years by everybody. I mean, even guys like Elijah Wilkinson, who, were cast-offs and vagabonds and things like that. But I said this last week, you have to stay the course. You have to build, and it's been the biggest bugaboo for this particular franchise is just not getting the lines of scrimmage to where it needs to be. Even when you had Matt Ryan, even when you had your franchise quarterback. For so many years, we invested in a quarterback and our wide receivers and tight ends and running backs and all these kinds of things. And we even really invested in our corners, right? We've had Asante Samuel, and we've had, AJ Terrell now, and we had Desmond Trufant, and we've had really good corners over the years. But where we've always lacked is at the point of the football. And I have a very simple philosophy about football, okay? I have a very simple philosophy. The closer to the football, you're great. When the referee puts the football on that mark, okay, the closer that your best players are to that football, the better you will be. If you get 10, 15 yards away from the football and that's your best players, you won't be as good. And it's very simple, and it's the hallmark of why the 49ers, no matter who's playing quarterback, no matter who's been their wide receivers, whatever, it's been a rotation of guys, but they've always been the best line of scrimmage team in the NFL. And it just has stood out over these last couple of seasons when you see how good that they are on both sides of their line of scrimmage, whether it's been top tier talent that they've drafted really high, whether it's been diamonds in the rough, whatever it's been, they're always the best at what they do. And it's the thing that makes the 49ers unique to not having franchise quarterbacks and all this other stuff along with it, that they are great on both lines of scrimmage. If the Falcons can take one lesson away from what the 49ers do, it's be great at the point of the football and dominate on both sides of the line of scrimmage. Until you get that fixed, we're not going to talk about Super Bowl or any of those other kinds of things. All right, well, thank you so much for making Hittin' Hard with Jon Chuckery your first listen every day. Make Locked On Sports Today your second listen every day. It's the biggest stories of the day, instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. It's available on Odyssey, YouTube, wherever you get your podcast from. We ask you to head over to youtube.com, put Locked On Sports Atlanta into your search browser. When you get there, hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get ourselves to 6,000 subscribers as our next benchmark. So want you to be a part of our ever-growing community. We are free and available to download on all of your favorite podcast platforms, including Spotify, Odyssey, wherever your favorites are. You can find us there. Roku and Amazon Fire. Yes, we are available on all of those platforms as well. And then follow me on my personal Twitter page at JMCH316. This has been Hittin' Hard with Jon Chuckery, Locked On Sports Atlanta.